What does it take to transform a life? A year? A lifetime? Or a moment in time? Tony Budell from British Humanitarian Aid tells a remarkable story of how his life was transformed by a moment-in-time encounter. On the edge of utter despair, his marriage on the rocks, having tried to end his life several times, God unexpectedly spoke into his life. Tony takes us back to where it all began, on the seafront in Dover in 1988, where he received his God-given mandate. This is the story of Tony Budell of British Humanitarian Aid, a remarkable story of a loving God who intervenes into Tony's life in the face of his despair. Welcome to On Location. This week we're continuing the powerful story of Tony Budell and how God enabled him to practically love others. He tells us of a letter he received from the Ukraine, asking for help for the many victims of the nuclear disaster in Chernobyl. Tony responded to the request with a convoy of aid, which led to new avenues where his God-given practical love would touch the lives of many. We'll meet Victoria Filatova, who after having met Tony went on to set up the Arata Community Centres with the help of British Humanitarian Aid. Arata is an organisation which essentially takes care to distribute aid and essentials to the poor, first starting in Chernihiv, then moving into other towns of the northern Ukraine area. We'll visit the centres, families and people where this work has helped change and inspire lives, providing them a better and more hopeful future. Let's join Tony as he explains the story.
Time and time again, I've been out into Russia and it's a long journey. You've got 3 or 4 different flights to get there. You're changing up to 8 or 9 hours time change. It's a battle to get the money to get out there, battle to get the organizing done. And I get there and I've sat down, I've said, what am I doing here? Why am I here? Why don't I stay at home? You know, yes, I get those feelings. And then when I'm in the hall and I hear the worship and I feel the moving of the Holy Spirit, I see the faces of these unbelievers desperate for Christ, and I get up there and the fire comes on me and I get up there and wow, now I know why I'm here, and then I don't want to go home. How do you translate the Old English of hallowed be thy name? And I battled over that for a few moments. How do we do this bit? And the Holy Spirit just whispered to me, what it really means is this where you worship. You know, the Holy Spirit just broke over me at that moment. Suddenly it seemed as if I was no longer alone in that cell. Somehow it seemed as if the walls had blown out, the roof had come off, and I could hear the angelic choirs. I get so emotional even when I think about it. The glory that burst over. I'm sorry. The actual glory that came into my soul and my life at that moment was indescribable.
I actually died in 1980 on an operating table while I was having my youngest child. I stopped breathing and stopped. It was necessary for them to resuscitate me. As that happened, I suddenly found myself out of my body.
I remember lying in my bed at night, surrounded by these problems. It was a Saturday night. And I remember just looking up to the ceiling and saying this simple phrase. I said, God, if you're there, I need you. And within 1 second, in hindsight, I know what it was. The Holy Spirit poured out on me. I feel like every angel in North America entered my bedroom. And I had the most amazing encounter with God. I didn't even know it was happening. And I was just being washed and washed and washed by the Holy Spirit.
At the beginning of this amazing story, I want to give all the glory to the Lord. Andrew Beaton said to me, Pastor, he says, I've been praying and I've asked the Lord this morning. I said to him, Lord, can you send 2 angels to come and deliver our pastor today? When 2 men appeared in the doorway, I knew when I saw them that this was something special. He said to me, are you the pastor? And which I answered, yes. He said, I am Peter West, and this is my son, Paul. He says, we are from Queensland, Australia, and we have been sent of the Lord, and we are here with a message. The moment he said that to me, I knew that this was God. And then he gave me 4 words that have changed my life. And he said, the Lord has told me, as I came up the staircase, to tell you that everything is going to be okay. And he looked Sonia in the eye and he said to her, Sonia, is there anything that needs to happen this week? And you can imagine that for 6 weeks my wife has been on her own. She had to bury this burden, and it didn't take much for her to break down. And so in that coffee shop she started to cry, and she said to Peter West, she said, the bank has called up a building overdraft of £100,000 and they want instant payment. We don't have the money. You know, and he listened to us, and then he looked at his son Paul, who also came with him, and he said to Paul, Paul, I now know why the Lord has sent us. And then he said to us, he says, you do not know this, but I have my own business in Australia. He says, I live a humble life, but the Lord has blessed me. He says, everything that I have belongs to the Lord. He says, my business is the Lord. I'm going to pay the £100,000 overdraft. He says, I'm going to pay your mortgage, not just what's behind. In fact, I'm going to pay for the next year. My friend, and I don't know if you believe in chess and if you play chess, but sometimes, you know, we feel that we've been moved into a corner, and it seems that you're going to be toppled. But the Lord has always the last move. And when He says checkmate, that the enemy has got no chance. And I want you to know that don't give up, because you sometimes get into a situation where you feel, I cannot take it anymore. And I want to say to you, don't give up. The Lord never gives up on you. And so you don't give up on Him. And when it doesn't seem that things are working, I want you to know that He's working behind the scenes for you. When I was in prison, when I was fasting, the Lord was working behind the scenes, and right now He's working behind the scenes for you. And if you feel that you're imprisoned, He says, I will set you free.
One example of how God goes with us when we're committed to share the good news with other people happened to me a few years back when we were simply calling on people who had come to our church and had filled out some kind of registration card. So I remember walking up with a new Christian to this piece of property, and it was very dark. And we went through the gate, and there was a huge German Shepherd dog there. And that dog just ushered us all the way. It was a 5-acre estate. And so the dog took us right to the front door of the home. And the man of the house opened the door, and I could see that he was shocked. And he said, "How did you get here?" And I said, "Well, your dog showed us the way." And he said, "Did you not see the sign outside the gate?" And I said, "I didn't see any sign." He says, "Well, it's really big, very clear." And he says, "The sign warns everybody of the fact that we have a trained attack dog on the property. And the dog has been trained to allow no intruders upon the property." Did he not bark? I says, "No." "Didn't attack you?" "No." He took me right to the front door. And then he said, "You and your friend here must be from the church we visited." And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, my wife and I and our 3 children have been praying since dinner time that God would send someone to us to tell us how we could all become Christians. I know God sent his angel to let you get past our dog so that we could hear." So he ushered us into the home. The dog sat right beside me as I shared the gospel with these 5 people. All 5 prayed to receive Christ. And then afterwards, they showed me how well trained the dog was. And he said, "You know, what we saw here was a miracle. There's no way you would have gotten onto our property except for the fact that God wanted you to share the news of how we could become Christians." And by the way, he showed us the sign. God must have blinded us to the sign. It was so clear, it was well lit. And as I looked at that sign, I realized God blinded us to the sign, because if we had seen the sign, we would have walked away. So we didn't see the sign, so it's like the angel was there with the dog, but I think it's also blinding us to the fact that we were in any kind of danger.
My name is Pastor David Oronsaye. Me and my wife, we are pastors of All Nation Christian Center, and we are based in West Norwood.
Judith Oronsaye, pastor of All Nation Christian Center, along with my husband.
London is today a major business and financial centre, ranking on par with New York City as the leading centre of global finance. It is often referred to as just the city or as the square mile. The City of London has a resident population of under 10,000, whilst the city employs 340,000 professional workers, mainly in the financial sector.
Considerthelilleys Promo, TV in UK, take 1.
Well, hello, Dr. Crouch, and hello, Matt, and hello, TBN audience.
The import of the way he's speaking here is hang on for dear life. And if you don't hold to it, then you're putting yourself in danger. See, if that boy had not hung on to that rope, today he wouldn't be alive. He was saved because he held on. If you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. And then you will know the truth.
Now, you don't know truth unless you have tested it.
Hello and welcome to Insight with George Kubor.